Criminal justice reform is getting additional attention as legislative deadlines get closer. A group of community leaders are rallying behind efforts to convince lawmakers to approve several bills meant to curb Oklahoma's growing prison population.
Since voters approved State Question 780 in 2016, criminal justice reform advocates have been pushing lawmakers to take more action. Oklahoma is now the top state for incarcerating its citizens. Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform is hoping a slate of 5 bills will make it to the governor's desk this session. Among the criminal justice reform bills, there's a push to better define drug offenses.
The next thing that we have to do this year as we take action is establish a clear definition of what constitutes possession with intent to distribute. There ought to be specific weights and circumstances defined in Oklahoma statutes that will prevent against overcharging low-level drug issues.
Chairman of Oklahomans for Criminal Justice Reform, Chris Steele, also points to legislation which prevents Oklahoma jails from becoming de facto debtors' prisons through bail reform.
To stop Oklahomans from being incarcerated prior to conviction for misdemeanors and low-level nonviolent felony offenses, simply because they cannot afford to make bail.
Another big push is to make State Question 780 retroactive.
And reclassify all drug offenses, all low-level drug offenses and property offenses from a felony to a misdemeanor for all Oklahomans.
Making State Question 780 retroactive could have a positive impact on those who are already out of prison and trying to make their way back into being a productive member of a community. Many, like former inmate Rhonda Bear, are dealing with the label of felon after they've served their time.
Can I tell you, when I walked out of prison, I had a box of books, I had $50, and I had a label called felon. Do you know how hard it is to get your children back when you can't get a job? When you're turned down for housing because you wear the label of felon?
Seeing the need, Bear started Homes and a business which take on newly released women.
Our intent was to hire these women coming out of prison without rejecting them, to let our community and our state get to know them beyond their felony convictions.
Bear says a change in the law could help these women move forward after they leave prison and become contributing members of a community. The problem is costing the taxpayers money.
I was working with a woman yesterday in prison. She got a 20-year sentence for 30 volumes. That will cost the state almost $500,000, and she has 3 children in foster care. Add the cost. Is it worth it?
The Oklahoma business community also recognizes that talented people are behind bars for minor offenses instead of being in the workforce.
Locking people up for offenses that are now misdemeanors is really crippling our workforce, because these people should be at work, and our employers need people to work.
Greater Oklahoma City Chamber of President Roy Williams adds Oklahoma's incarceration rate is hindering the economy's progress.
These facts about what Oklahoma does as it relates to incarceration truly tarnishes our national reputation. And as an economic development organization who works every day to try to bring new jobs and investment from around the world to Oklahoma, we know what happens when you have a bad reputation.
Former Congressman J.C. Watts also supports criminal justice reform efforts in Oklahoma. He's been part of a task force to address the issue on the federal level as well.
The startling thing that we discovered, in 1980, the Federal Bureau of Prisons housed 20,000 inmates. When we submitted our report on January 14th or January 16th, 2016, it had grown to 210,000.
Changing the way people are sentenced for drug offenses has helped alleviate part of the problem on the federal level. For example, eliminating the disparity between sentences for powdered cocaine and crack cocaine.
And the only difference in crack cocaine and powder cocaine is that powder cocaine was used by Wall Street folks, crack cocaine was used by poor folks. But yet the sentencing was 20-1.
Steele feels the time is right for the legislature to take action.
Thankfully, we have leadership in place in the legislature and the governor's office that intend to make this happen. From Governor Stitt to Speaker McCall to Pro Tem Treat, we have the right people in the right place to enact reform this session. Now is the time to act.
The slate of criminal justice reform bills is facing an important deadline to be heard by the end of next week.